Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. So what is happening in our neighborhood? That is Sri Lanka, Pakistan, as well as Pakistan's everlasting shadow on Kashmir as they keep trying to disrupt life as we know. So to understand all these things, let's welcome our guest, Major Madhan Kumar. Major Madhan Kumar, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskaram, sir. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind to you as well as to all our viewers. Bharat Mata ki Jai. And we are seeing a point now where people are beginning to feel that their special status is now being deflated one balloon at a time. And we're going to touch that after we do the first two topics. First off, Sri Lanka. Where is the Rajapaksa family today? And do you think the current interim prime minister is going to take things or solve things for the teardrop nation?
So, as we already discussed, the family dynasty politics has costed them. One of the main reasons which costed Sri Lanka very, very dearly. So, the first one to go was Basil Rajapaksa, the finance minister, the youngest brother. Second was Mahinda Rajapaksa at the peak of the protest, which turned violent when Rajapaksa's supporters went and attacked the peaceful protesters there. Subsequently, it ended up in a complete mess, and a couple of people got killed, and their houses got torched. Their expensive cars also were set on fire. So those videos have been circulating in the social media very, very rapidly. Post that, so there was a discussion within the family. One of the Rajapaksas has to go. The people were actually aiming at, or they were really angry at, Gotabaya. So that's why Go Home Gotha campaign online and on the ground. It was carried by almost people from all wake of life. Be it the Buddhist monks, be the middle class, be the poor class. So all of them got together in South Sri Lanka, which is Colombo and adjacent areas, and they did a massive protest. But they did a very smart politics in that is one has to go. So they decided the elder one to sacrifice, which is Mahinda Rajapaksa, who is the prime minister of the thing, because in the last 2 years, the centralization of power, the presidential powers have been enormous. A lot of powers have been centralized and has been given to the president. The president of the nation is currently sitting with a huge amount of power, be it constitutional, be it judiciary. So he has sizable amount of power. So they thought over this. So the best thing to sacrifice is the prime minister rather than the president, who can still hold the power, and somehow they can try to save the family from a complete political exile. So they have attempted it and they have been successful in it. So this has been done. Gotabaya is still holding on to the chair. The protest has slightly mellowed down, but the Go Back Gotha campaign is still on. Now comes an appointed Prime Minister Ranil, who is the only MP of his party. So if you look at the people's mandate, he doesn't have the mandate to rule the country. But on the best terms and conditions of the opposition, as well as Gotabaya, he is the candidate who has been friendly with India, who's been very, very friendly with the US. So the promises on which he has been made the PM is he can go get the IMF bailout, get some more loans from the friendly nations like India and the US, and somehow recover from the current economic crisis, at least recover. So that's the phase which it has been in. But having said that, because he's completely reliant on the MPs of various parties who have their individual political aspirations, it is really tough for him to run this government the way he wants. So there are tactical wins for him as we speak. In the past 3 days, he has been able to get some loans. India's diesel ship has reached there. So it's all stopgap, quick fix solution which he is able to win. But how far this can go is a big $1 million question. The political instability continues to remain. And one statement which he gave yesterday, we need to really make note of it, is what he had told is, see, the Go Back Gotha campaign will continue. I'm not going to let the police disturb the protesters or police kind of control and manhandle the protesters. it's a democratic right of our citizens that will continue. Which, in the sense, clearly says after the day 3 of his taking over that I am the new boss here. So he's kind of showing that strong-headedness with, the strong muscle to Gotabaya. Otherwise, the opposition parties allege him to be the puppet of the Rajapakse family. So whenever he was in trouble, Rajapakses used to rescue him, safeguard him. Vis-a-vis, whenever the Rajapakses were in trouble, he used to safeguard them. So that is the voice of opposition. So how long this government is going to continue is it's definitely a question mark as of now.
It's a tenuous situation, and we'll wait and see how things play out. Major Madan, let's take a quick look at our neighbor, the other neighbor, Pakistan. Now, it seems as if all these attacks are coming out of the woods. There was the terror incident in a bus that was headed towards 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝘗𝘼, which killed 4 people, injured 25. Probably the numbers have gone up now. Very unfortunate. And also the cherry picking and killing of Kashmiri Pandit who have come back on a government plan. Now, Major Madan, first of all, Pakistan still hasn't got their IMF aid or their money from China, as far as I know. So they are, on the verge of bankruptcy. They may not even be able to pay the salaries of their army, and yet they continue to indulge in these attacks. What do you make of it? When is it going to stop? And how do you see this whole thing play out?
So this is a very, very tough and a complicated situation. One side, the Kashmiri Pandits has to be there. It is their land. They have to go back to their place. Government should have a rehabilitation policy, provide them the basic security which is needed. And that's how the coexistence, the pre-90 scenario would eventually come in. But whenever the government has attempted this, so there's always a soft attack, a terror attack policy which these Pakistani-based terrorist organizations have been carrying out. So one thing we need to note is Lieutenant General Nadeem. He's just been ISI chief for the past 4-5 months. Now he has to prove his credentials as the ISI chief, which is predominantly anti-India stand. So in that he has to do something. So they have clearly adopted a soft target policy wherein they don't counter the security forces or even the J&K police. So they will go after individual killings in a terrorized way. If you look at the dead body of that gentleman who got killed,
Rahul Bhatt.
Rahul Bhatt, it was brutal. So these photographs definitely creates a panic. It definitely creates a terror among the Kashmiri Pandits. Nobody would want to die that way. Nobody would want to lose their family members that way. So they are adopting soft targets, selective killing of people, and they are using more one-time offenders. In this case, there are 3 terrorists, local terrorists who are involved, who are eventually gunned down within 24 hours, within 24 hours by the security forces. Our security forces, kudos to them. But can people stay there at this kind of a situation when people are getting terrorized? The answer is no. They have to really go after, the security forces have to go after them. Now it's summers, the influx of terrorists will be high, the winters are over. There are close to 500 odd terrorists are waiting in the various launchpad across the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So the fresh influx of terrorists, which is an yearly affair, annual affair, will definitely have a toll. But one side is that, and second side is attacking the pilgrims of 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝘗𝘼. This has happened in the past, but what it actually says, what they're trying to convey is, now Katra, where the temple is there, the 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝘗𝘼 Mandir is there, is actually close to Jammu. It's 30 kilometers from Jammu. From there you take a guard road and reach the temple. So there is Jammu, and then there is Katra, and then you go to Udhampur. From Udhampur you go to the Banihal Pass. Once you cross over the Banihal Pass, Pir Panjal range, you enter the Kashmir Valley, Kazigund and all these places. So this area adjacent to Jammu, which is basically Udhampur, Katra and all these places, Akhnur, has been free of terrorism for quite some time. So the Home Minister had just said that we will reduce the Armed Forces Special Power Act, soon it will go. Which means that particular area is getting back to normalcy, and there is no much of terror incidents or grave incidents. So we can remove the Armed Forces Special Power Act. But in this sense, they are driving a message: we can hit you close to Jammu as well. The Vaishnav Devi is a very, very important temple, very, very sacred temple for millions of Indians. Now they say we can touch you there. So that clearly sends a message that you are still insecure. So that's a symbolic message which they want to convey. So that's why they have chosen a bus. And surprising, the outfit which has claimed responsibility is a very, very lesser known one. Basically, it's a decoy. It's called Jammu Kashmir Freedom Fighters. So there is a slight shift here. From 90s, they all spoke about Kashmirian, independence for Kashmir. And then it slowly moved into Islamic state. Kashmir as an Islamic state. That's how this entire, exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits happened. And then at one point of time in 2010, they started identifying themselves with ISIS, the Islamic Caliphate. So that's how it got transformed. But now they are again back to the same narrative of Jammu and Kashmir freedom fighters. Now this talks about freedom. Freedom from oppression, so and so. It doesn't speak about any specific religion. So they are trying to shift it back to the same place where it was. So these are the two things which they want to do. One is to attack the soft target, which are common people, in a very, very cruel way, cold-blooded. Second is to do a very low-intensity bomb blast in and around Jammu, just to put a point that none of the J&K is secure. So that's the message they want to give. So in this case, the bus, it's supposedly they have used a sticky bomb, which is very, very easy. It's like a bomb which can be stuck in any hard metal surface. They just have to paste it. It's a very old technique. So anybody who passes by a bike can easily do it. They just don't have to stop and do anything, in terms of the techniques, the tactical ones. This is a very, very simple one to do. I think they have used that technique as far as this bus is concerned. The reports are yet to come. But this clearly makes things complex. Now we will see a very huge retaliation as far as the security forces are concerned.
Now, see, this is a unending problem that, with a little bit of money and a little bit of motivation, somebody comes in and wreaks havoc. Does India pay back, Pakistan in its own coin? You have to go back. See, one of the things, Major Madhan, I don't know, you probably follow history as well as I do. The Palestinians used to be afraid of Israeli retaliation more than the committing of the terror act itself. They were more scared when they came back that Israel, if they caught somebody who, they will specifically go after the person who did that, but they were also afraid that it didn't matter where they hid, these guys will catch him. So is that kind of a fear of God, approach that India needs to pursue? And I've heard things like at the border, Jammu and Pakistan. At Jammu, there is an international border. But there is a LOC from Srinagar to Muzaffarabad. That is supposed to be pretty porous. I've also heard that women used to come wearing the complete parda, and nobody could check them to see if they were carrying concealed weapons or other things. How are things improving now, or is it still the same?
Things have considerably improved. Indian Army now relies heavily on technology. I would not like to name the company's name, but there is a Chennai startup who has been providing facial recognition system to the people out there, the active forces there. Thermal screenings have been done. Mobile X-ray screening is also done. So these things are able to, in technology, we can always beat a design. Even if they're concealed, we can beat a design. But the underlying problem here is a very tough response. We call it as disproportionate response. I punch you and I punch you, I punch back 5 times. So India is in the process of doing it, but it has got slightly it has an issue in that is like we typically can't go the Israeli way because a lot of energy and time has been put in to get this youth to the mainstream. Kashmir's population is very young compared to the national average. So instead of getting them, allowing them to get radicalized and then going after them, it is better we kind of hold them, get them to the mainstream. So army has been specially involved in various welfare activities. They classify it as WHM, winning the hearts and minds of people. So once you kind of overdo this, that will take a hit. So the leadership, army leadership, doesn't want that to happen. So they are still giving a chance of surrender for all the local terrorists. We call them LTs and FTs, local terrorists and foreign terrorists. So foreign terrorists, absolutely there is no mercy. They have to be shot down, they have to be killed, and they will continue to be killed. But as far as the local terrorists are concerned, the first thing is they should not pick up a weapon. So the moment we see somebody gets radicalized, certain interventions are done. So they are trying to get them to the mainstream. So there are cultural exchange programs. These people come to Chennai. These people come to Mumbai, Bangalore. See what his life is all about in the rest of India. They have cultural exchange programs, and they have school exchange programs, and lot of emphasis has been happening in terms of promoting sports, especially cricket. So cricket has been promoted, tournaments have been conducted, teams have been made, they have been coached. So to attract the young talent, the physically fit guys, Kashmiri youth. So these interventions will take a hit if we typically go after the Israeli way. Because in the Gaza, where the Palestine settlement is there is no much of, I would say, in Gaza, there are hardly any Israelis. So the other side of Gaza Strip, the West Bank, is completely Palestinians, and this side of this thing is completely Israelis. There is a West Bank settlement where there's slightly kind of overlap, but in Kashmir they are all mixed up. A very genuine non-radicalized youth also stays there, and 1 out of 10 radically youth is also stays there. So here it is a bit difficult to operate that way. But we are making it very clear as far as the terrorists are concerned. Either you come out, get surrendered, or get killed. So that's the tagline, the one-line policy which the army adapt. So until then, you will be hunted down. We will be after you. So there is no period of relaxation for a terrorist. The shelf life is like considerably coming down. It's less than a month now. Now these operations where they killed a Kashmiri innocent civilian, Hindu Pandit, but hunting them down in 3 days itself is an achievement. So this response should continue, and strategically, this youth of Kashmir should not be led to radicalized. So those interventions will help us.
I completely endorse your point of view. So one of the things about winning the hearts and minds is to make sure that nonsense and violence is not taught in madrasas. There has been an explosion of madrasas in the valley. I mean, mosques have been built like nobody's business. Clearly, somebody has funded all these things. It has happened. Now you can't destroy them or do whatever, but at least it can be monitored as to what is being preached to the youth of the society. Is the Indian government keeping a close eye on that part also?
Yeah, definitely. The lot of fundings have been cut down. In this case, I would like to quote the JKLF separatist guy, known terrorist, SN Malik, who has been the poster boy of all the left liberals in terms of their conferences, think tanks. Is supposed to be a freedom fighter, has confessed in the NIA court officially that he has been part of the terror funding and he has been part of the terror network. And that's a confession, clear confession, not with NIA, in the NIA court. So they have been able to cut down funds in terms of the legally rooted funds. But as far as Hawala is concerned, the drug cartel, that's still a challenge. We still have a long way to cover to cripple down the funding. But sizable amount of external funding and even internal funding has been cut down. That's why you could see drastic reduction in the stone pelting incidents these days. 4 years before, 5 years before, the stone pelting was at such a high level that every stone pelter, even 1 hour of stone pelting, used to earn them anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000. It's a very, very lucrative money. You don't have to actually, kind of work. So everybody was stone pelting, and they had a free distribution of money. But now that has been crippled. But it's not still not watertight. It is impossible to get it watertight. But as we slowly progress, we keep on squeezing the funding, the logistics, and the radicalization. If this three plank is getting crippled, maybe down 5 to 10 years, this entire terror incident will be more localized rather than we take a pragmatic J&K as a state. Now, the second biggest attack which they will plan is to spoil the elections. They will go all out. They will use all muscles to kill election officers, to kill candidates, to kill police. So they will do all this sort to create a terror so that the election doesn't happen.
So let's take a quick look at what's happening across the border in Pakistan. Now, what I'm hearing, and I just put out a monologue on this, what I'm hearing is about 98% of the army at the lower ranks all support Imran Khan. So this is a new. The army suddenly finds itself in two camps. And because Imran Khan had kind of leaned towards Faiz Hamid, we don't know if that's true or not, then these people are now suddenly looking at Faiz Hamid as the next general, COAS. And so there is a division in the ranks. And is India doing something to exploit that? And also, I'm also hearing that Shehbaz Sharif feels that now is a good time to call elections because, the longer he waits, the worse the situation economically is going to get for Pakistan. And therefore, it's going to be even harder. Your thoughts on what's happening there?
So definitely, army, even the serving class or even the retired, the veterans, have a sizable impact on Pakistani politics. Most of the retired officers, they're men, and even a lot of serving officers and men, they tend to support PTI, which is basically Imran's party, primarily for two reasons. One, the upper middle class of Pakistan, or the middle up and upper middle class, who have been brought up in military schools and army schools, in cantonments, they strongly back Imran. Imran is seen for them as more than a larger than life. See, he's a cult personality among them. So they don't go by what policy it is, what kind of mess he has made. That doesn't matter unless your cult is so good. So these people follow him for a cult. And second is there is a sizable discontent among General Bajwa because of his repeated extension. A lot of generals have lost their chance to become the chief of army. So these people have their very strong regimental associations. Each one belong to some regiment, Baluch, Punjab, Northern Light Infantry, a lot of regiments there. So they have a very, very strong regimental network, and both serving and retired Jawans and officers, they all get together. It's called a biennial. Once in a year they get along, or once in 2 years. So they discuss a lot of politics. So those people who are disgruntled with General Bajwa, who's the current chief, naturally tend to rally behind Imran because he is the only prime minister who had kind of taken Bajwa head on. That's one point. Second, PTI cadre, especially the youth and the urban youth especially, they are in support of Faiz Ahmed. Why? Because he is the one who helped Imran Khan to win that infamous election last time. The ISI men were deployed, they were booth rigging, there were the complete booths were rigged, there were bribery, all sort of things were done just to make sure that Imran wins. So this ecosystem and sizable amount of NRI, the Pakistanis who are settled abroad, they tend to support Imran Khan. But where it has actually gone wrong is supposed to be the people of masses. Naya Pakistan, New Pakistan, ye sab chore hai, all these guys are thieves, their family, their dynasty politics. I'm your savior. Now comes the sizable population of voting population of PTA, which is the poor people. No, they were been getting the subsidized ration through shops and all these things were there. But that was short-lived. In somewhere in the middle of COVID, during the second wave, the inflation started rising, the prices started rising, there was oil shortage, there were commodity shortage. So they started feeling the pinch, and now they said, okay, now this is heading nowhere. It's the same anger which the Lankans have on their current regime. So that anger is on them. And one last myth which the opposition, Shahbaz Sharif led the opposition, is keeping the now the ruling party is keeping up the chest. This there are video footages which has been confirmed time and again by some good journalists of Pakistan. So they told me that there are few videos which can actually break Imran's thing. Yes, the Imran says that look at these guys. Everybody is a bribe taking guy. He's a looter. He's a thief. Now to take this moral seat, you have to be absolutely clean. So there are a couple of videos which they will eventually play during the election rally, where Imran Khan was caught taking bribe himself. These videos are kept up the sleeve. Now to counter this, Imran Khan has now started building a narrative that there is a foreign conspiracy, this is an imported government is operating from London, it is not Shahbaz, it is Nawaz Sharif who is operating from London, it's an imported government, there is a life threat to me, I've recorded a video statement of who all is responsible if I die. If I die, will you you should ask justice for me. This is completely getting emotional, the drama beyond understanding. So this has been narrative been set up by Imran, and the other one is there are a few videos up the sleeve where he has been caught taking bribe. So God alone can save Pakistanis to choose among there's a cricketer turned comedian, comedian turned villain, and there are a group of families who got together to save Pakistan.
Very, very interesting. And lastly, Popular Front of India. There has been talk that it's going to be banned, but you and I, we've already discussed this, that banning the organization is just going to mean that the same cadre will morph into another organization with a different name. What is the government trying to do different this time around, Major Madhan?
So I could see two things. I actually gave a interview with one of our local channel. So they had given a counter yesterday. They took my name and they said that so-and-so person, Major Madhan, had told that they have been recruiting for ISIS. So I have quoted them 5 articles, one from Hindu, one from Indian Express, one from Times Now, one from their own Asianet, Kerala. So all this, right from 2014, even rather dated back 2012, till date, there has been charge sheet on them. There has been arrests made. There have been solid evidences which was been put on media that their members have turned ISIS recruits, have forged their passports, reached Iran, and then Iraq, and then they were trying to cross over to Syria. Couple of them were caught. Now this is all available in the open domain. If they have to come out clean, everybody has a right to express, but you have to express the fact. Now the Kerala High Court went on record and said that PFI and STPI are extremist organization who have unleashed violence, but they are not banned. This is what the court says.
Yes.
Their police, headed by the CMO, the current Chief Minister of Kerala, Sri Pinarayi Vijayan, they have went on record and said that they have busted ISIS recruitment link in Kerala, and so far this much have been done. And there is an article in News 18 where a PFI's leader, the senior most, I forgot his name, I think Bakker, so he has gone on record and said that our ex-members have gone into ISIS, which is of a serious concern to us. We have taken it very, very seriously. We have issued pamphlets. We are telling our youth not to get radicalized and to go and join ISIS. So, it's partly a confession, but very smartly they use it as ex-PFI member. Now, who is ex-PFI, who is active PFI, they have to tell the world, because they are an organization. So they say they are constitutionally bound organization within the constitutional framework of the country, it makes sense for them to tell that, these are our ex-members, we have terminated them on so and so, or these are the membership privileges we give. So this is what our ideology is. None of that sort is defined. It's a very random. Now governor went on record, they said we will go against protest against governor, but we have to make a note, none of the national parties, the bigger parties, have supported them, including the current ruling government in TN. The DMK has not supported them. A few fringe parties have definitely voiced out for them. That's obvious, for the obvious reason of vote bank politics. But they are not representing the Indian Muslims. We have to be very clear about it. They are not the sole representative of Indian Muslims. The percentage radicalization compared to the population we have is very minuscule. But that poses a threat. That poses a security threat. We cannot deny it. No, one thing which they have been actively asking, which we also have to agree, that if you find so much of grave evidences against us, why can't you ban us? So in Karnataka, they ask a question: the state government is ruled by BJP, the central government is also ruled by BJP. Why there is a decision to ban us? You ban us, we will challenge in the court. You provide us the evidences. So one thing which I see it politically, it suits both the sides in terms of consolidation. But on the national security front, if there are evidences, there are ample number of dossiers submitted by the various agencies. They have come out and put it on record. So those things have to be consolidated. It has to be made watertight. Otherwise, this ban of an organization doesn't mean anything. Because even in Valley, if you see the lot of organizations which are banned, they come out with some other name. So we need to address the basic ideology. They have to come to the mainstream. They have a political representation. They need to be in the system to fight the system. So they have to be in the mainstream to fight the system. Otherwise, this political, what happens is, anything happens in Kerala, they got as a political killing. So yesterday, in that I was watching the interview. So when somebody puts a question that why so many people were killed by the PFI workers, the immediate answer rebuttal is, but you are not asking RSS. Firstly, you should agree whether you have done it or not. Then you can ask the other organization with all legitimacy, RSS, BJP, whoever it is, you can put the counter question to them, why have we done this? But for the Kerala government, it suits that to call it as a political killing. But it is, we need to see how much of political killing happens. It happens across, political killing does happens in specific states where people take politics to their heart. But eventually the government has to either say this organization is banned, or let them operate, or we acknowledge what they're doing is right. Not taking the middle path and then keep saying that this is an extremist organization. Who stops you from banning it? That's the same question they've been putting forward, which I don't think so. It's wrong in asking the government why it's not getting banned. Either you take a stand, it's a ban outfit, it's extremist, not good for the country, or we say acknowledge whatever they are doing it is right within the democratic and the constitutional process.
Well, we are headed for interesting times on this, and as always, a pleasure listening to you, Major Madhan. And viewers, if you like this program, please do leave in a comment, and we would like to have Major Madhan come on a regular basis. He brings forth so much useful information that the youth of India especially need to know, because India is a complex country. Every 100 kilometers, the food habits change, the language changes, and the way people live changes. So we are a very pluralistic society. We need to have everybody thrive and live and coexist well. Thanks once again, Major Madhan. I like the way you always make sure that there is no emotion here. It's all data driven. And once again, thank you very much, sir. Namaskaram.
Thank you, sir. Namaskaram, Jay.
Yeah.